What has the King of Morocco done that is sending shockwaves around the world? Morocco is a country in North Africa. However, Morocco's lighter skin and the Arabic language they speak make it difficult for people to believe they are Africans. However, genetics speak for themselves, and Moroccans have been shown to be brothers to Black Africans. Black African nations like Nigeria began to turn against Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso following the coups in the Sahel region. The Ecowas went as far as to apply sanctions to Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, turning into puppets of the West. Due to their landlocked status, the sanctions also cut them off from the rest of the world, particularly in terms of trade. Then, to everyone's surprise, Morocco entered the picture. But what did Morocco actually do? Did Morocco also turn into a puppet of the West or took side with the Ecowas headed by Nigeria? Let's investigate. How, therefore, has occasion turned into a penalty for Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger? The West African countries of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are landlocked and do not have direct access to the ocean. Because of these geographic limitations, these nations mainly depend on their neighbors in the economic community of West African states for port access and trade. And this has started to cause issues. As a regional group, Ecowas implemented sanctions in reaction to recent military takeovers in these three countries in order to address issues of governance and political instability. These actions were intended to address the problems brought on by the coups, but they had the unexpected result of stopping trade, which caused economic and humanitarian crises in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. Due to trade disruptions and restricted port access, these landlocked nations now face major obstacles when it comes to importing and exporting products. The sanctions have an impact that extends beyond their original political goals, harming populations and wider economies. There is absolutely no trade in these nations since they lack ports. In the past, the surrounding nations were helping, adhering to agreements that permitted import and export from these nations. However, following sanctions, everything was different. The impacted people have faced serious difficulties as a result of these sanctions, which have surely caused economic hardship by raising prices, restricting access to necessities, and upsetting supply chains. The sanctions also make it more difficult to handle the ongoing humanitarian crises and security risks in these nations. Ecowas has underlined the significance of communication and interaction with the transitional governments in all three countries, acknowledging the complexity of the situation. Finding answers that take into account both the impacted communities' humanitarian needs and worries about political stability is the aim. Stated differently, the purpose of sanctions is to exert pressure on these nations, particularly Niger, to undo the coup. Western countries like France support Ecowas sanctions because they desire this. However, how have the sanctions affected Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger? Vulnerabilities have been made clear by the sanctions placed on Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso following military takeovers. Economic operations have suddenly stopped due to the cessation of trade with neighboring Ecowas countries, lowering imports and exports considerably. This causes the price of necessities like food and petrol to skyrocket, further taxing the already tight budgets of regular people. Due to the trade freeze's restrictions, supply chains find it difficult to restock necessities, leaving retailers with bare shelves and unhappy consumers. Jobs vanish when economic activity stalls, leaving families to struggle with joblessness and reduced income. In terms of humanitarian issues, rising costs, supply chain interruptions, and financial difficulties have all contributed to the increasing food insecurity of vulnerable people. Citizens' well-being is at risk due to limited access to necessary medications and healthcare services. Educational institutions are threatened by the economic consequences, which jeopardizes the education and future opportunities of many youngsters. Political and security concerns center on the challenges provided by sanctions, which sow the seeds of resentment and dissatisfaction among people, and may lead to additional instability. Sanctions could obstruct diplomatic relations with transitional regimes, preventing the advancement of democratic and peaceful transitions. Economic hardship and protracted instability can foster an environment that is conducive to the growth of extremist organizations, presenting risks to regional security. However, what actions by Morocco have garnered attention? King Mohammed VI, however, stated Morocco's readiness to provide Sahel nations with road, port, and rail infrastructure at the commemoration of the Green March's 48th anniversary, because he thought it could fundamentally change their economies and the economy of the entire region. He called for the establishment of an international project to allow neighboring sub-Saharan countries access to the Atlantic Ocean. This has the potential to significantly alter the course of events in the Sahel, not only in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Furthermore, Morocco must provide this access to the whole Sahel region without showing preference. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso can only be invited to collaborate with other African nations in this manner, even though these three nations have been the primary driving force behind the project. Everyone is eligible for the initiative. You should be aware that despite the Sahel region's abundance of natural resources, such as gold, uranium, and oil, corruption, and the danger of militants have resulted in protracted conflicts and poverty. King Mohammed VI emphasized that in order to solve Sahel's problems, a collaborative and shared development strategy that goes beyond security and military measures is required. Along the southern Atlantic coast, he laid out a more comprehensive plan to develop a maritime industry, with the goal of establishing the area as a center for both continental and global economic integration and human contact. This is due to the fact that landlocked Sahelian nations like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger depend heavily on access to the Atlantic Ocean for both strategic and economic reasons. Direct access to Atlantic ports removes reliance on nearby coastal nations in terms of trade and economic expansion, lowering the expenses and delays of transportation. This makes doing business with overseas partners easier, which eventually increases exports and draws in foreign capital. Additionally, direct access facilitates market diversity and improves economic resilience by opening up new trade avenues beyond conventional partners. In addition to encouraging regional integration within the Sahel and West Africa, the increased connectedness with the world economy fosters economic cooperation and general development. Additionally, it has the potential to reduce poverty and promote growth. Direct port access reduces the cost of importing necessities like machinery and fuel, reducing inflation and increasing the affordability of items for the general public. The growth of port infrastructure and related sectors boosts local economies and lowers poverty by generating new job possibilities. Better trade facilitation also draws foreign investment to industries like processing and manufacturing, which propels economic expansion and general development. Direct access to Atlantic ports reduces dependency on neighboring nations for essential imports, which may lessen political pressure and increase strategic autonomy from a security and geopolitical standpoint. Additionally, it creates opportunities for collaboration in marine security. Its involvement in global projects, promoting stability in the region, and combating dangers like trafficking and piracy. Partnerships with maritime countries are further strengthened by this development, which may result in increased collaboration in fields including development, trade, and security. In order to support agriculture, the blue economy, and renewable energy, the Moroccan king placed a strong emphasis on the creation of a maritime economy based on offshore natural resource discovery, marine fishing investments, and seawater desalination. He also suggested a plan for promoting tourism in the Atlantic region, making the most of its resources to establish itself as a top beach and Saharan travel destination. Later, King Mohammed VI's plan to improve landlocked African countries' access to the Atlantic Ocean was supported by the foreign ministers of Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Chad. The project intends to change the African geopolitical sphere and includes the rehabilitation of Morocco's coastline. The initiative's success depends on improving Sahel's infrastructure and incorporating it into the region's current transportation and communication networks. Therefore, Morocco's pledge to support infrastructure was warmly accepted. The foreign ministers emphasized the project's vital role in promoting stability in the Sahel region in a joint statement. They declared their goal to complete suggestions and submit them as soon as feasible to the presidents of the participating nations. Bakary Sangar, the foreign minister of Niger, stated that he fully supports the project because he believes it will strengthen their hopes for the welfare of their people. In addition to commercializing Niger's resources, Sangar anticipated the effort would speed up cross-border trade for the advantage of Morocco and the Sahel nations. To strengthen cooperation, ministers from Morocco, Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, and Niger convened in Marrakech for a ministerial coordination conference. The plan put out by Moroccan King Mohammed VI in November was at the center of the talks, imagining a global initiative to open the Atlantic Ocean to the Sahelian nations. In order to secure the success of the program, King Mohammed emphasized the significance of modernizing infrastructure in the Sahel countries and linking it with the region's current transportation and communication networks. A published memo conveyed gratitude for Morocco's dedication to supplying rail, port, and road facilities to increase Sahelian nations' involvement in global trade. Diplomats also decided to create a national task team in each nation to help carry out the project. With counterparts Abdoulaye Diop of Mali, Bakary Sangar of Niger, Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré of Burkina Faso, Abakar Kouma of Chad, and Moroccan Foreign Minister Nasser Bourita convened to discuss the Royal Initiative, which focuses on regional and international cooperation to enable Sahel countries to access the Atlantic Ocean, as suggested by King Mohammed VI. The initiative seeks to address integration and economic transformation in the Sahel countries, ultimately enhancing the standard of living for their citizens. In his speech, Bourita emphasized the initiative's potential as a strategic turning point, and that Morocco and the Sahel countries have a long history of cooperation, mutual aid, and solidarity. He emphasized the visionary attitude of King Mohammed VI, seeing opportunities where others perceive problems and suggesting basic therapies for practical fixes. The Mohammed Zazikis Foundation for Sustainable Development has started a number of humanitarian projects and missions around Africa as part of its Pan-African effort. Among other things, the Mohammed VI prenatal facility in Bamako, Mali was established. Add your voice to the total liberation of Africa by leaving a comment in the comments section below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one. Let's proceed. However, how have Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger reacted using this initiative? Morocco's King Atlantic Plan has received support from landlocked Sahelian countries, expressing gratitude for the effort to make the Atlantic coast easier for them to reach. At a conference held in Marrakech by Morocco's Foreign Minister, Nasser Bourita, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Chad expressed their appreciation, highlighting how the project aligns with their objectives for social and economic advancement, which are essential for stability in the larger Sahel. In order to promote mutual prosperity, Morocco pledged to support the brother Sahel states by providing access to its ports, roads, and infrastructure. In addition to highlighting the importance of win-win initiatives and the critical role that education plays in sustainable development, Foreign Minister Bourita emphasized Morocco's preference for investment over commercial commerce. The participating nations announced the creation of task groups to carry out the plan after the Marrakech meeting. Mali's strong support to the Atlantic Initiative was reaffirmed by Malian Foreign Minister Abdoulaye Diop, who saw it as an example of Morocco's larger commitment to integrating activities for the common goals of Sahel, authorities, and peoples. Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré, the Foreign Minister of Burkina Faso, welcomed the move as a call to recognize the rights and values of landlocked nations, offering a chance to turn their continentality into a strength. Bakary Yas Sanga, the Foreign Minister of Niger, praised the royal effort for reflecting King Mohammed VI's Pan-Africanist vision, anticipating opportunities for resource exploitation, change, and regional connection. Mahamat Saleh Anadif, the Foreign Minister of Chad, commended King Mohammed VI's leadership and positioned Morocco as a trustworthy and strategic partner for all African countries. He thanked the royal initiative for bringing optimism to the area and emphasized how it aligns with Chad's regional economic integration project. The Dakhla port's ongoing construction has been highlighted as a major contribution to regional growth, highlighting Morocco's continued assistance for African nations. However, what are the specifics of the port that will be utilized? And is it adequate for all nations? The focal point of interest is the Dakhla port, serving as the entry point to the Sahel and West Africa. King Mohammed VI's Atlantic Initiative aims to use the upcoming $1 billion Dakhla port, as well as other logistics and infrastructure to help landlocked Sahel nations reach their sustainable development goals and gain access to international trade. The substantial investment in the Sahara, Morocco's southern provinces, intends to help neighboring Sahel nations by providing Morocco's infrastructure, both inside and outside the region, fostering economic integration and regional trade. The Dakhla port proposal will have industrial-free zones to draw in export-focused enterprises, drawing inspiration from the Tangier Med port's success, which is currently the largest in the Mediterranean. With a fishing and import-export port 40 kilometers from Dakhla, the 1650-hectare port will serve as a maritime transportation hub for southern Morocco and West Africa. What are the high stakes in this cooperation? The project was started in 2016 under King Mohammed VI's orders, and it is ideally positioned to strengthen ties with sub-Saharan Africa and exploit the economic potential of the southern provinces. Spearheaded by King Mohammed VI, with both continental and global influence, the effort aims to establish the Atlantic coast as a center for economic unification. Reflecting a broad and long-term regional vision, it aims to construct a national merchant marine fleet and develop a maritime economy infrastructure in southern Morocco. Morocco is the hub because of all of this. In exchange, it provides access to the Atlantic for Morocco's landlocked neighbors, something they desperately need. The Moroccan king emphasizes Morocco's unique geographic position as an Atlantic country that provides access to both Africa and American space. The Atlantic Initiative supports Morocco's function as an important hub, promoting ties between neighboring countries as well as with the rest of the world. It represents Moroccan leadership, demonstrating how well the king's strategy worked to turn the southern provinces into socio-economic development role models. The program highlights the importance of South-South collaboration and demonstrates Morocco's unwavering commitment to Africa. With initiatives like the Morocco-Nigeria gas pipeline promoting regional integration, the king's vision seeks to strengthen cooperation along Africa's Atlantic coast and guaranteeing Europe's safe energy supplies. The king's suggestions for improving and connecting road infrastructures are in line with the Ecowas policy in addressing the vulnerabilities of landlocked Sahel states. However, that approach is one of mutual cooperation rather than placing sanctions on other African nations at the whim of Western nations. By strategically positioning Morocco as a symbolic partner with its sub-Saharan neighbors, the initiative represents a win-win approach to South-South cooperation. The Moroccan king recognized the effectiveness of Moroccan diplomacy in fortifying the nation's position and thwarting the actions of its adversaries. Maintaining development and modernization policies with a particular focus on the Moroccan Sahara remained the key focus. Rehabilitating the country's coastline, particularly the Atlantic that borders the Moroccan Sahara, is essential to transforming the area into a hub for economic integration and human contact on both the African and international stages. The strategic importance of selecting the Atlantic coast as a geopolitical reference to assist Moroccan development and cooperation with Africa, especially the Sahel and Sahara nations, was emphasized by Hicham Moted, an expert in strategic and international affairs. This emphasis, which puts cooperation and shared development ahead of security and military measures, is in line with Morocco's concept of South-South cooperation. King Mohammed VI recognized the need for improved infrastructure in the Sahel region and proposed an international project to give the Sahel countries access to the Atlantic Ocean. Morocco's dedication to socio-economic development is demonstrated by recent investments in southern regions, such as the Tiznit-Dakhla Expressway and the Dakhla Atlantic Port. The Moroccan Sahara is positioned in the King's vision as a vibrant and strategic area for cooperative Atlantic development between European, American, and African countries. Can Morocco use its economic cooperation and diplomacy to bring all African nations together? Morocco is aware of its responsibility to bring Africa together, end internal strife, and fortify the continent, even though it is seen as more Arab than African. The Moroccan king is aware of the need of strong infrastructure in promoting greater trade, economic expansion, and general development. China serves as a real-life illustration of this, leveraging progress to increase its power. The Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or APEC, is one of the newer regional procedures that serves as an inspiration for the Moroccan strategy for regional integration. These programs take a practical and incremental approach to collaboration. The suggested strategy prioritizes observable results without postponing long-awaited achievements by concentrating on functional collaboration areas with immediate measurable gains. There is a chance that the well-chosen domains will produce tangible advantages. Furthermore, given the depletion of resources brought on by overexploitation and open-door policies to foreign investors, these initiatives tackle the infrastructure constraints impeding the development of African states, particularly those in the Atlantic and the Sahel region. This strategy is founded on inclusive open regionalism, which emphasizes the value of creating partnerships and synergies with other projects and cooperative efforts involving nations from the Atlantic as well as other regions, such as the Sahel and North Atlantic. Furthermore, the Kingdom of Morocco's modest institutional framework for the Atlantic African governance process, which consists solely of a permanent secretariat and focal points, reduces the financial strain on governments and prevents disagreements over institutional frameworks. Large-scale logistics projects, such as ports, railroads, highways, and pipelines, are crucial because they have the power to change the global economy and improve global dynamics. One example of such a project is China's Belt and Road Initiative, which seeks to improve connectivity between China and Europe, Asia, and Africa by constructing bridges around the globe. In this way, the Atlantic Initiative is a potentially growing African version of the Belt and Road Initiative. In actuality, robust infrastructure can promote greater trade, economic expansion, and general development. Infrastructure-developed nations are better able to draw in foreign investment, ease the flow of people and products, and boost their competitiveness in the international market. Very few African nations have scores that are balanced across all aspects of African integration. For instance, South Africa and Morocco have robust infrastructure integration, productive integration commerce, and macroeconomic integration. Nonetheless, trade integration and free movement of people can be improved. In this regard, 23 African nations along the Atlantic coast have been brought together by the institutional framework established by the Kingdom of Morocco. For landlocked Sahel countries, African Atlantic ports, especially those in coastal nations like Morocco, are strategically significant since they provide as vital entry points to international markets and centers for trade facilitation. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso can now work with Morocco to engage in open trade, despite being sanctioned and denied access to nearby ports. Additionally, because this program is not limited to just 3 Sahelian nations, it will undoubtedly result in additional collaboration, facilitating the path to mutual development and the resolution of short-term problems. The West's dominance in Africa would decrease and the continent would become even more united if such extensive trade routes helped African nations and enabled them to earn more money. Should other Black African nations follow Morocco's lead and make their own decisions about their fellow African nations? Can skin color affect the support nations give to each other? What do you think about Morocco helping Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso? Tell us what you think in the comments section below. We explore the rich history, culture, and the ongoing struggle for sovereignty in Africa. Join us in this important conversation by subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you're not just staying informed, you're becoming part of a movement dedicated to reclaiming Africa's rightful place on the global stage. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's work together to spread knowledge and inspire change. Thanks for watching.